Hello, welcome to The Analyst at the Ashes with me, Simon Hughes.
And I'm Simon Mann.
Happy New Year to all of you. What did you do for New Year?
I watched the fireworks.
Did you?
Yeah, I stayed up past midnight. Had that sort of you on my shoulder. I was going, I bet he's going to go to bed. But I didn't. I stayed up.
Good man.
And I had a very good view of the fireworks. They only lasted for 12 minutes. So there were people queuing for about 6-9 hours with their picnics, sometimes without them, waiting to see the fireworks. Lasted 12 minutes. You could have watched them on TV.
It's not quite the same, is it?
Where were you?
Well, I was really lucky. A friend of mine had a friend who had a boat, a small boat.
Who had a friend who had a boat.
Yeah. And they invited me on, and there was only 12 of us, and we cruised right up to the bridge, at the back of the bridge actually, the harbour bridge, rather than the front. So the front is the sort of premium view. We were kind of in the rear seats, but it was a fantastic view. And actually the booming sound, I mean, when you say you can watch it on TV, yes, of course you can, but the resonance of each explosion, sort of with the harbour as a sort of natural amphitheatre, just makes this incredible noise. I'll play a little bit of it actually on the video, just to let you sort of see and hear it. But actually it's also incredibly dangerous, because it's not so much arriving, but sorry about the plane noise overhead. By the way, we're going to get a bit of that as the match wears on.
We're right on the flight path,
we're quite close to Sydney Airport here. But the leaving the bridge afterwards to go back to your various points where you got on the boat is quite dangerous, because quite a few people are a bit pissed.
Really?
Pilots and so on. And they're just all
Pilots?
cruising. Sorry, skippers. And they're all
skippers. They can't. They're supposed to be in charge of the boat.
Yeah, they are. Well, what do you call them then? Yeah, some of them were idiots basically, because they were cruising in front of us in a motorboat, and we were on a small yacht. And the wake of those motorboats, which were far too fast and sort of weaving around. I mean, it was like sort of Mumbai traffic or something, but with waves as well. So it was quite bumpy.
They need to get the breathalyzers out by the sounds
Well, there were
of it.
police shouting, slow down on the boats on the harbour. So it was a little bit sort of hairy getting back.
But you made it, Jos.
You made it. And it is memorable, I must say. Sydney do it very well. I know London do it well too, but Sydney do it very well. It was dramatic.
And they're kind of the first as well, isn't it? So they set the ball rolling all around the
world. And they use the harbour bridge very well, don't they? As a sort of extra platform for launching everything, and sort of waterfalls coming down and stuff. So it is pretty impressive. Anyway, of course, we are at the Sydney Cricket Ground. I love this ground, don't you? Yeah. I mean, it's really special with the old pavilion over my shoulder, and the sort of the atmosphere of it as well. I mean, the hill, which is over your right shoulder, used to be a lovely place to stand as well. They've built that up now.
People used to just sit on the grass.
Yeah,
there.
No, they did.
I mean, it was literally a grassy hill.
Yeah.
And people would sit up there in mass ranks. I remember coming here 94-5, and the England supporters were sitting on the grassy knoll over there. And I can remember very clearly others declaring on Graham Hick on 98.
Why didn't you mention that in the press conference?
Well,
I'd love to have seen his reaction.
But others, he's talked about in the past. I think with the passage of time, I think he thinks perhaps he should have let Graham Hick get his 100. Because I think it kind of divided the dressing room at the time as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And England were in with a chance of winning the match. They weren't quite able to force victory in the end. I think Australia had 3 wickets left at the end of that game in the 94-5 series. But I think when they went back onto the field, this team that was buoyant after having a lead of well over 400 suddenly was a bit fractured, and it took them a while to sort of find their legs again. And Australia put on a huge second innings opening partnership, which gave them a chance of winning the game, and then gradually England whittled away. Anyway, we're talking about games in the past.
Well, I mean, we just heard the noise of the mower there going out to the middle to cut the pitch. In fact, he's cutting the side pitches at the moment for the bowlers' practice. The middle pitch has been obviously the subject of much conversation. It looks slightly green at the moment. He must be one of the most nervous groundsmen, curators in world cricket at the moment, the Sydney Cricket Ground groundsman. And of course we had this press conference just a few minutes ago with Ben Stokes. We wanted to know if he'd thought of the team yet and planned the team. The 12 have been announced, but the 11 haven't. And he just admitted that actually their knowledge and understanding of pitches isn't too good. Let's just hear what Ben Stokes' response was when asked what the team is likely to be?
Yeah, look, so it's found to be quite a difficult one. I think I don't think a groundsman's ever been under as much pressure as the guy here this week. But yeah, it looked yesterday and looked the day before as well. So I mean, we try and act like we know what we're doing when we're looking down at the pitch and rubbing it and, you know, knocking it. Like, no one really has a clue, to be honest. You can only just try and give yourself the best chance of thinking, right, what 11 do we need to give us a chance of winning this? So we'll have a final look at some point today at training, and then we'll get something out there. But yeah, I think we all play a good game by looking like we know what we're doing when we're looking at the wicket. But to be honest,
Thank you. Cheers. So, I mean, we look at the pitch here, obviously from a distance, we can't tell. But the track record of this pitch is actually reasonable. Apart from last year, the track record is okay. The average first innings runs per wicket is 46, and the fourth innings runs per wicket 32. So, over the last 10 years or so, that means the pitch hasn't deteriorated that much over time. There have been 5 draws here, actually, in the last 10 tests, and Australia haven't lost any of those games. So they've got a good record here, but there have been quite a few draws. But last year was a bit of an anomaly.
Yeah, well, it was, and it's the sort of match that I probably gets everyone nervous after what happened at Melbourne, because it was over in 2.5 days, and there were 3 scores in the 100 plus area. India against Australia, and then Australia made 162 for 4 to win the game on the 3rd day. Again, a lot of people coming to this game from locally and from overseas. We don't want a repeat of what happened at Melbourne. So fingers crossed. I think what did Ben Stokes say? He said, you know, that I've never known as much focus on the groundsman or whatever. He must be feeling pretty nervous. No fault of his own, really. Just kind of the fault of what happened in Melbourne in the last game. So if the game goes to 4 days, or glory be 5 days, or to the final session on the 5th day, then that will make everybody happy, I think.
Particularly if England win, obviously from an England point of view. The Betfair odds, that's not great for England. 29% England, 72% Australia. The draw doesn't seem to really be factored into that equation very much. So 29 England, Australia 72.
That's draw, no draw.
No draw is really kind of in the mix there. But one quite interesting sort of Betfair opportunity, I suppose you could say, is England 12-1 to win and hit the most 4s and 6s, and because they've got a power-based batting order, the chances of them hitting the most 4s and 6s, if they bat well, is good. Whether they can actually cobble up a second win in a row is another matter.
Depends if depends if Travis Head features highly for Australia, because he normally hits quite a lot of 4s and some 6s. That's as well, doesn't it? But, so 12-1 for that. Mind you were promoting Mark Wood to hit the winning runs in the England victory earlier in the.
Well, I did
series.
say it was a long shot, that, didn't I? 250-1, which it was, wasn't it? To hit the winning runs in one game, you do have to play in the game to be able to hit the winning runs. So poor old. I mean, it's such a shame, isn't it, that England are now looking at a situation where there are 3 main bowlers that they sort of banked on really to have a big impact on this series have all gone home. Wood, Archer and Gus Atkinson. So the opening partnership, I think tomorrow, is going to be Matt Potts to come in for Atkinson, partnered with Bryden Carse, and then Josh Tongue to follow up. So it's not the bowling attack that they planned all along, but actually I think Potts has got his chance, and it could just be a lovely opportunity for him, a bit like Josh Tongue, who seized his opportunities for halfway through the series. Potts as well. I mean, Mike Atherton did a piece today in the Times saying, and the headline on it was the Sydney graveyard, because a lot of players, I think it's something like 50 or half the 50 players who've finished their careers for England in the last 10 to 15 years have finished their career here because the Ashes was a whitewash and they got cast off and never reappeared.
And there'll also be some players who might have played here. Like one-offs or second test matches or whatever.
So there's an opportunity.
Scott Borthwick, Boyd Rankin, for example.
They obviously didn't have a good experience after this test match, but there is an opportunity for Potts to stake a claim here for. I mean, it's a long way off to the next test after this, isn't it? Till June against New Zealand. So it's 5 months when so much can happen. But if Potts makes a real good statement here on a pitch which might help him a bit, then he could really be onto something, I suppose.
He's been an odd cricketer, hasn't he? Because when he made his debut, when he first took steps in international cricket, you thought, he's a sort of a good workhorse, and he one of those bowlers. That phrase, he never let England down. He'd always run in. He'd take his wickets here, there, but for some reason he's really sort of slipped by the wayside. And I think we identified this during the last Test match, that he was kind of ninth choice before the Ashes series, well before, in terms of like the end of the summer, and then Chris Wokes dropped out, and Jamie Overton dropped out, so he was well down the list, really. And his figures in county cricket last year weren't great. He took 29 wickets to 42, bowled a lot of overs.
We're going to get a bit of music now, aren't we? God.
Yeah, the preparations for this game are in full swing. We've had aeroplanes, we've had the mower, and now we've had the music.
Trying out the sound system.
Yeah. So anyway, it's an opportunity, a belated opportunity. I thought he might get a game somewhere in the series, and it's come really though by default right at the end, doesn't it? Because of 3 injuries, and it's been a theme of the series, of course. We know with Australia, Lyon, Cummins, Hazelwood. So they've lost 3. England have lost 3. There's 6 bowlers who haven't made it through the series for one reason or another. Partly due to age, partly due to general wear and tear, and of course some bowlers came into the series injured. I think of Cummins, he's an example of that. Hazelwood didn't make it at all. One of the great bowlers in the world.
And I think there's a sort of point to that actually, because I think the outfields here have changed quite a bit over the last 5 years, because all these grounds, of course, are also Australian rules football grounds as well. It's a great scenario actually for Australian sport, that they can use these stadiums for 2 major sports, and so it really helps the sustainability of these grounds, these stadiums. But the one thing about them is cushioning grass, couche grass, used on these outfields, and it's very spongy, more spongy than I remember actually from being here on past tours. And then you run on from the spongy grass, you run onto a very hard drop-in pitch, which is like concrete. So it is a bit like running on the beach on sand and then landing on concrete, and it really does just wear your body out very quickly. And it's sort of like when you land on the ground on these hard pitches, it is like sort of teeth shattering.
So you think
bone
that's changed
shattering
over the years?
I think the contrast between the
soft and hard,
of the outfit.
Okay.
And one of the things about Australian rules football actually is that there's issues around the game now with concussion and clashes with players who don't wear any protection and landing heavily on the ground. So I think they've made the grounds a bit more cushioned, and then there is that contrast with the hard pitch if you're playing cricket. So I think it's something that you do need to get accustomed to, and that's one of the reasons why England's bowlers haven't lasted the course. And perhaps why some of the Australian bowlers haven't either. I mean, it is very demanding, that contrast. It's almost like running through water and treacle and pounding on the soft grass and then landing on the hard pitch. So yeah, it's tough on the bowlers. We talked about England's bowlers a bit, but obviously a big emphasis on England's batting, which has been, to say the least, disappointing in the series. And one of the things that's always bugged me actually was the fact that certain players have made the same mistakes over and over again. So Ollie Pope lost his place for that reason, just not giving himself time to get in and looking too skittish. Jamie Smith's been out a number of times hooking and got away with it and then got out playing the shot. So it's always interested me, whether there is instruction given to players before they go out to bat from the management, from the captain, from the coach, etc. And that was the subject of a question that I asked Stokes in the pre-match press conference. You have a mixture of experienced and inexperienced batters in the side. Can you give us a little insight into what instruction, if any, is given to, say, an inexperienced player like Jacob Bethel or, say, Jamie Smith when they go out to bat? Is there a sort of a message that is passed to them about the game situation or the bowlers that you might face, just before they go out or at some point before they go out, or is it just left up to them to make their own mind up and decide how they're going to play?
I think the most important thing that we always try and do and make sure is that everyone's just got a very, very clear mind about going out there and and doing the job that's required of them in that moment. That will always change because of either the conditions that you go out there and play, or the situation that the team finds themselves in there. And certain individuals will play different situations, completely different. But as long as in their head they're very clear about what they're trying to do and what they're trying to achieve with that, that's the most important thing. And it doesn't always guarantee success, but as long as there's clarity in what they're trying to do, then you can back their skill to go out there and try and deliver that. They're international players. They're all very skilled players and capable of playing in different ways and putting teams under pressure in their own ways. But yeah, making sure that everyone's very clear about what it is that is required of them right in that moment for the team is the most important thing for us, and then allowing their skill to go out there and do that for them.
Good question, Yoz. Not sure it was totally answered though. You talked about clarity of mind. Kind of like a ducking of the question, really. So, I mean, you basically wanted to know whether the coach or the captain actually says something to a player, kind of, this is how I think you should play, or not. Is it just that players are just allowed to go out and play as they see fit, as the situation takes them?
You're right. It wasn't a totally conclusive answer. What I thought was interesting was he said, well, these guys are incredibly skillful cricketers, which they are, and they've got experience. Well, that they don't. Some of them do not have any experience, and that's been the problem. Jamie Smith has not played cricket out here. Jacob Bethell hasn't much, if any, Test match experience. And so I think that those players do need a bit of guidance. I mean, all right, so there are some players. Look, Alistair Cook, when he first came into Test cricket, he came in India, having travelled straight from the West Indies, and he seemed to get Test cricket straight away. And he got a 60 and 100. He looked to the man aboard, didn't he? And there are one or two other players who are like that as well, who can just sort of move into the next level without almost seamlessly. But see it clearly, some of our players don't do that so well, and so I would have thought they do need a bit of guidance, a bit of advice. Weatherstone's was sort of just protecting them and almost accepting that they don't give them that much instruction, because if they did, they might get it wrong. That instruction might be wrong. So it was a bit of a kind of vague answer. But I think, I suppose the underlying message is that they do leave it up to the player as long as they're clear in what they do. So maybe they chat to them in each case and hear what they have to say, and then they go out and do it, hoping that they're clear in the message that they've delivered.
Yeah. I mean, Australia haven't batted particularly well in the series either, have they? I mean, there's a few who've underperformed. I mean, Labuschagne, Khawaja, Cameron Green. I mean, also as well, I was looking at Steve Smith's run tally in this series. He's only got about 130 runs. In a way, because of the way the games have panned out, 2 8-wicket victories, for example, and then he was left high and dry in that second innings, 24 not out in Melbourne. But if you said to England at the start of the series, you get to Sydney and Steve Smith only made 130 runs, you'd be thinking, and there was no Hazelwood and there was no Lyon and there's no Cummins, you'd be rubbing your hands together. It's been a really weird old series.
Unsatisfying.
Do you think? Yeah, we're at the final Test match. What sort of series has it been? Has it been a desperately disappointing one? I mean, Australia won't be unhappy because they won the Ashes and they'll be celebrating, come whatever day the game finishes. But it's felt underwhelming, hasn't it?
Very. And because there's no development of a story, it seems to just get just over. It's like there's no kind of fight there, is there? It's almost like as soon as a match sort of seems to start heading one way, it's just gone, and there's no kind of struggle to get it back. I mean, that happened in Adelaide. It was probably the best match of the series because England did put a fight up, and they battled away. But the other games, either the Perth and the Brisbane games, or obviously Melbourne, where Australia sort of lost their way with the bat, it just felt very sort of almost over in a jiffy. Yeah. And when you go to Test cricket, you want that kind of tussle, what you like to call an arm wrestle.
Yeah.
And there was no arm wrestling. It was just one arm falling flat quite quickly.
Well, we've only had 13 days of cricket, which, we've missed 7 days of cricket in this series. Look, not all series can be 5 test matches where every match goes to the 5th day and most of them go to the final sessions we had in the summer, and that was a fabulous series against India. It was memorable, wasn't it? I mean, that really was a fantastic arm wrestle, and even the last series in England was fabulous as well. It had lots of stories and plot twists, and the Manchester rain and then Stuart Broad at the end, and Pat Cummins winning that first test match at Edgbaston, and the hooking story at Lords where England got out on the hook, and then Ben Stokes played that incredible innings, and Alex Carey stumped Johnny Bairstow. There was so much going on the whole time, wasn't it? It was a wonderfully compelling series. This has not been. I mean, it's had its stories, but the cricket, in a way, the stories that sort of
they've been off the field.
Off the field, I mean, in a way, have dominated on the field. The narrative off the field, in a way, has been greater than what we've seen on the field. And it's like being promised to go to a great feast, and someone's forgot to bring most of the food, or
or it's a 5-act Shakespeare play, and the curtain comes down after 2 acts and can't go back up again because the electronics have failed. It just feels incredibly disappointing, and I suppose most disappointing for the people who paid a lot of money to be here. Maybe this Test match will counter the balance slightly, correct the balance, but certainly the guys who came to Perth and Melbourne. They're just left kind of going, well, what should we do for 3 days? I mean, Australia's not a bad place to have 2 or 3 days to kill, admittedly, but when you actually were pinning it on watching cricket, it's pretty upsetting.
Yeah. It's kind of bucket list, isn't it? Come to Australia, watch the full Test. Look, there'll be people who came to Melbourne, England supporters, say, well, look, at least we saw England win the game. So we get to this game, it's 3-1. So I kind of feel when you look at it a little bit,
you're willing Australia this match to be a draw, aren't you? And then your predictions come true.
Well, I just note that if it is a draw, my prediction will come true, 3-1. I would have thought it's probably odds against. I think the weather forecast is good enough.
Yeah, it's a good forecast.
It's good, unless the pitch is an absolute belter, and it's hard to force a victory. Then
I don't think that the batting on either side is capable of taking advantage, even if it is a belter.
Yeah.
So I don't see any chance of it being a draw at all.
No, unless the weather forecast. I mean, they suggest there's going to be some rain around. But unless it's quite consistent over a crucial day, something like the 4th day or something like that. If it rained a lot,
I've looked at the long range forecast.
It's not too bad, is it?
I mean, there's a little bit of rain on the 2nd day and 1st day, but after that, it looks absolutely clear.
So we better make up time. It has been actually quite cool and wet in Sydney.
Yeah.
It's kind of reminding me of an English summer since I've been here.
The funnel web spiders have been out.
Oh, have they?
Yeah. You don't want to get anywhere near them.
No, you're absolutely right.
No, they are quite nasty, actually. And they're in the northern suburbs, which is where I'm staying. And they burrow a hole.
They can stay in the northern suburbs.
They can stay in they can. But they burrow a hole in deep underground. But if it rains, they come up because their little hole gets flooded. And they're the type of spiders that are really scary. And I've never seen one, but I've heard stories. They rear up like this. And then give you a very nasty bite.
Okay.
So we don't want any more rain because we want the funnel fed spiders down underground again.
Good. Okay. Right. Fine.
But I just going back to the game though. I was quite impressed by listening to Stokes talking when he was asked about what does this match mean to England. And he was absolutely adamant. This is a really important game.
He started off by saying it's a big game, didn't he? The first thing to say, this is a big game. And if you look at it, Australia won the series and England have won a match. Finally, they've broken their hoodoo over like 15 years. So in a way, they've got something, not what they came for, but they've got something. Australia have got what they wanted. So people said to me, people don't know much about cricket back home, do they still play the last game now or the last 2 games? Yeah, of course they do, because this ground's going to be full for 5 days if it goes for 5 days. Because the other thing as well, Yoz, which we kind of overlook, saying it's a dead rubber. Of course, it's not a dead rubber anymore because there are World Test Championship points on offer. And Australia have actually been talking this up. Their coach, Andrew McDonald, has been saying, it's important, this is important to us for World Test Championship points. They're top of the league at the moment. Okay, it's kind of embryonic, the league. It's still got a long way to go. And they were in the last final and the one before that. There's a lot for them to play for. But actually, when Ben Stokes was asked about that, he kind of equivocated, didn't he? It wasn't like, yeah, this game is important for the World Test Championship. It was more like this game's important because we're playing for England, we're representing our country. So, and it's a theme, a little bit of a theme with England. They don't seem to rate the World Test Championship. Is that fair?
Yeah, I do think it's fair, and I'm surprised because you would have thought that would be an absolute mission. When Andrew Strauss's team won here in 2010, they then became number one team in the world. And there is a stat, quite an interesting stat actually, which sort of reflects the difference in the strengths and attitudes towards the World Test Championship, because England were number one team for 12 months. Australia have been number one team for 166 months over the 10 years or 12 years or so. So, it just shows how much more focus and consistency there's been from Australia compared to England.
Yeah, I don't understand it really. I think you'd want to be to be in that final.
You would,
especially as it's
they're nearly always in England. Well, it has been in England so far every time, hasn't it?
Look, you don't know all the discussions that are going on inside that dressing room, and it's one of the problems that I suppose England have to some extent is that they end up playing Australia and India in that cycle because of the finances. So they end up playing the two best teams over the course of 5-match series. So their path to a potential final is generally a little bit harder perhaps than some teams who haven't got as tough a fixture as that. So there's that, but that's kind of to make excuses for them a bit. I've said it before that I think it should be a real focus. It's what it meant for South Africa was fantastic, wasn't it? When they won at Lord's last summer, it was a real big deal for them. And clearly Australia, they've got their sights on it as well. That's the gold standard for them, to be World Test champions. To win the T20 World Cup, to win the 50 over World Cup, to be the World Test champions. Those are the three prizes on offer. Yeah, really go for them. I mean, England's task now is pretty difficult because they didn't beat India at home, and so this game is quite important. So if they can make it 3-2, then that kind of closes the percentage gap in the table.
It does, and it also will kind of take the pressure off slightly the coach captain axis, which has been criticised, well, especially the coach McCullum. Will he survive in his job into the summer as Test match coach? Obviously, the T20 World Cup is coming hard on the heels of this series, February, March, and he's the coach for that. There'll be lots of conversations and discussion about the coaching setup of England in Test cricket as soon as that World Test Championship, that T20 World Cup has finished. I think probably they won't do it until that point, because then if they do need to do a clean break, they may well do that. But I sort of hope actually that they keep McCullum, because, as I've said a few times, I do like his overall philosophy about the game and the things he's achieved. More recently, not so good, but certainly when he started out as coach, he had a lot of impact, and in a good way. I mean, I think that they have got to reflect on how they select this team now, and place more emphasis on county cricket and so on, and the performances in county cricket, and encourage Test players to play county cricket more, to acquire more skills and more experience in the red ball game generally. But that comes later. But certainly, if England can win this Test match, it will just take the pressure and the heat off McCullum a little bit. I would have thought. And Stokes was asked in the press conference, how's his relationship with McCullum? Has it changed in any way? And he said, no, it's still really good. We try to challenge each other, but our relationship is great. Yeah. And I think he's obviously hoping that this potential victory here will help McCullum to be maintained.
Yeah, I mean, he was also asked about the future, and in another press conference he gave yesterday, and he said, I can't imagine kind of being England captain without McCullum being coach. But I suppose the other side of that is what would he? What else can he say?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a difficult one, isn't it?
It
so
is.
You kind of like that. You toe the party line, but you can't say, I don't mind who's coach. Yeah, it's fine. If they get rid of him, it's absolutely fine. He's not going to say that, is he?
Yeah. Well, all to be decided, I suppose,
yeah,
isn't it?
It is. It is. There's a lot to be decided, and it may be there isn't that much change. It comes back to that point we asked earlier in the series. Why is it when England teams come here, they always lose, just about, not always, but invariably. And then there's a massive upheaval as a result of that, even though it is the toughest assignment in cricket. Does there need to be a perspective? Look, we've outlined on this podcast over the last few weeks the mistakes that have been made, and they've admitted those mistakes as well.
But we actually even mentioned them before the series started. We alluded to potential mistakes which have come true, sadly. Listen, anyway, I mean, enough of the talking, more of the action, which starts tomorrow. Of course, you can watch it on TNT Sports. It's the 4th of January start in Australia, but in England it's the 3rd of January, 11:30 p.m. on TNT Sports. And as you probably know, you can get TNT Sports on EE, Virgin Media or Sky, or you can stream it on Discovery Plus as well. And 11:30 p.m. start on the 3rd of January, late at night. So you can watch the first session, I suppose, and then have a late kip afterwards, get to bed afterwards. So we'll leave you with that, I think. Lots of interesting stuff from Stokes in his press conference, but in the end you can talk the talk, but you've obviously got to walk the walk, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose if they were to make it 3-2, it'd be like, oh, what might have been? Perhaps 4-1 might be a fairer reflection of the series that we've seen. And if it was 3-1, well, absolutely perfect, isn't it? Why do we bother playing the series?
Just listen to Simon Mann, because he always knows.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Goodbye for now.